Hello, Panem, and welcome to the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes book versus the movie. Okay, so I'm going to start this by saying there are going to be 4,000 different kinds of spoilers. It's just a vague number, but there are going to be a lot of spoilers for both the movie version of Songbirds and Snakes and the book. So I read this entire 517 page book. Yes, this book is larger than both sequels to The Hunger Games. This is larger than Mockingjay by, well, okay, so Catching Fire is 1 page longer than Mockingjay, and Mockingjay is 390 pages, and Mockingjay was split into 2 movies. This thing, which is, I'm not gonna math this, hold on, can I math this? 390, so 27, 127 pages more than the 3rd book in the trilogy of the Hunger Games series, only gets 1 movie. And they get that movie by doing a very odd plot condensing. So if you've seen the movie, you will know that there are, unlike any other film they have done for this franchise, sort of subheadings or section headings for the film. That exists in this book, but it makes more sense in the book because the timeline is more extended. So the section where the mentor program is announced, where the tributes are in town, is a much longer period of time. I have read this and it's been a couple days and I didn't take notes, so these are going to be sort of like vague timeline-esque bits. So it's a little more than 2 weeks in the beginning. I don't know the exact date, but I do remember it being like they're in the capital for roughly 2 weeks before the games start, and then there's a little bit of time before the tributes are announced and arrive. Then we have the games, which is, in the book, it's like about a week. It's not super long, and I will explain the differences between how the game appears in the movie as opposed to the book. And then the section in District 12 is under 6 months, but I believe at least within the like 2 to 3 month range. So the timeline in the movie is just very like condensed in a lot of ways. So in the first section, I will be doing sort of like a film to movie. And again, I will miss some things because there are some things that just like didn't stick in my brain, and some things that did stick in my brain and bothered me that they either weren't in the movie or they were done a different way. Now, again, I understand you're condensing a very long book into a movie and things are going to be changed. Things are going to be adapted. Also, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think this book may have been optioned before it was published, and I don't know if when that happens, if there are slight differences between the product given to the movie creators than the public. I don't know if that's true. I had a reading vlog where I read Delicate Condition that did not come out till this year, but American Horror Story had already done a season based on, or half a season based on the show, and it started 2 months after the book's release, which made no sense to me because I was like, this like just came out, what is going on? And they had to have optioned it in advance. They had to have. There's no way they didn't. So I don't know how that works if you option a book and start working on the script and the book is not out to the public. I don't know if things change, if you're told you have your own kind of license. I don't know. But going back to things that are different that bothered me. So in the beginning of the book, so in the movie itself, they keep talking about the plinth prize, the plinth prize, the plinth prize. That does not exist at the start of this book. So what starts this book, and a lot of this will be me describing the book and then saying how that was different from the movie, or bringing the movie in to say how this was different. So in the book itself, Coriolanus is living in the family apartment. Now, they have had this apartment for a very long time. It is super dilapidated. It is falling apart, but unlike the film, which showed the capital is very clean, pretty well put together, the capital is still suffering from the war. So buildings are war damaged. When I was reading the book, I imagined, and this is very Eurocentric because I went to an American high school and we covered the World Wars a number of times. But it gave me a very like World War II Europe vibe, like they're rebuilding from the war. And so the buildings are still sort of not in great shape. They do know that people are going to be doing work to rebuild or like fix buildings to make the city look more sort of resplendent again. But now it's not really like that. There are people who still have money, who have wealth, who were able to recoup or save their money during the war, but the Snows could not. The Snows' money was all invested in District 13, and so they are broke. They do own the apartment, but that's all they have. They have the apartment, they've had to sell off furniture, they've had to burn things to keep warm. They have no food except what they can kind of like put together, scrounge. You get like food ration-y kind of things, and they've used those. So like a cabbage. At a certain point we meet a character who, I wish I could remember his name, and I'm gonna, if I flip to a random page, will that tell me? Probably not. No, it's not going to. So there is a character who owns a nightclub in the book, who has had items stocked, like stockpiled in his club in the event of an emergency. So he actually gives Grandmam, Snow, and Tigress a number of bags of kidney beans to get them through. And so they have this asset that they can use to like trade for other food. They have beans when they have nothing else, but they are running out of food. And the issue is that like they just don't have it. Now, Tigress works for the seamstress. I believe it is the place that they show in the Mockingjay movie. I haven't read the Hunger Games books in a while, but we rewatched all the movies before this, and I'm gonna take a sip of water because I'm doing a lot of talking, and you're gonna see it because I'm not editing this out. So she does work at that shop. It's like Whatnots and something. So she works there. I'm gonna cough because of course I am. She works there. They don't mention if she manages, it seems like she manages to get food in some capacity at work, and then they sort of have like odds and ends that Grandmam can survive off of. And then Coriolanus is living off the food provided by the Academy. The Academy actually gives you breakfast and lunch, or like lunch and dinner. You get meals going to the Academy. So he's being fed. And unlike in the movie where he's like, oh, we had blah, 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 and we threw a bunch of it out. He never says this in the book. He never really talks about it. What he does is he sort of avoids discussing what's going on in his life. But he does eat very well at school. Like, he makes sure not to take too large a portion, but he does eat plentifully. He does not sneak off and not eat the school food because he's like, if it's free food, I'm gonna eat it because I need it. So he is eating free food. There's free food at all of these events. So in this, his big goal at the beginning is actually just to get into university. He's been performing very well at the Academy, and he just needs to get a scholarship. Now, they already know about the mentorship program. That's already been announced. They already know about it. He needs to do well at that, he believes, to also get a scholarship. Like, he's just trying to graduate well, get a scholarship, go to university. He will be set. He can try and get the Snow name back on track because he wants to make them a big name again. And his Grandmam and Tigress are consistently saying he'll be the future president of Panem. Constantly. It's like a thing. The Grandmam's been doing it since he was a child. So those are some elements that bothered me in the movie, where they're like showing him lying about how he gets food. He eats at school. Like, he doesn't hide the fact that he's eating at school. He doesn't hide the fact that he doesn't really eat at home. He sometimes just says like, I was too nervous to eat, or he'll like just say he's not eating. But there are rules in Panem. You can't throw away food, actually. Like, you can at home, but at the school you like can't sneak food out to feed your family. You cannot throw food away. There are like, you're to eat the food you are provided, and you're not to take too much. So it's like a whole thing about food, because the Hunger Games. So that bothered me a little. It bothered me that the mentorship is sprung on them, and that they keep talking about the Plinth Prize. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and come back. So in the book, the Plinth Prize is something the Plinth family does set up, but it is only set up after Sejanus goes into the arena. He does break into the arena. The turnstile system is like differently described in the book. Like, you can get in, but you can't get out that way. There's a different way to get in and out, but Sejanus does go. He gets in using a token from their tour that he like kept, and he does do the breadcrumb thing. Now, during all of this, Coriolanus has gone home. Mrs. Plinth is at their house because she says she has not seen him. She doesn't know where he is. She knows he's upset about Marcus, but she doesn't know what's going on. Then Snow is called, and he is told, you have to get him out. He's your best friend, which he argues is not true. They're not best friends. They're really not. He doesn't really like Sejanus. He just puts up with him. He's like, well, he's wealthy and whatever. So he just puts up with him. But he does get him out. The killing of Bobbin does occur. So some of that still happens. But in the movie, when Sejanus is like, well, this is when we'll have to pay our way out of it, like, he knows something's going to happen. In the book, he is escorted away. They're both very injured. They go to the hospital. And then the Plinth family sets up the prize. Now, in the book, consistently, Coriolanus is in the hospital for a period of time. So is Sejanus. like they're in the hospital. We miss some time passing with the tributes because they're in the hospital. After that, there's also the bombing. Like, there are hospital moments that we just don't see. I believe, I could be combining things a little bit, but I do remember people being in the hospital a lot more. So it's possible they're not really like in the hospital for very long. After the arena, it's probably very quick because they're trying to cover it up. But I do remember more like medical things occurring. I'm sorry if I'm blending them. It has been a little bit, and this book is so long. But there is actually hospital time in this book. Another thing prior to the game, so I am jumping back and forth a little bit to cover things, but it bothers me that the plinth prize is at the beginning of the movie when it's not even till the middle of the book. The other thing that does occur is Clemmy does still put her hand in the pit of snakes. They are described as a little smaller from what I remember in the book, and it's actually supposed to be a class project, and none of them wind up meeting up because the one mentor is killed. Now, her death in the book is far more graphic. All of the deaths are far more graphic. Everything is more graphic in this book. Now, she's even worse in the book because the mentor that dies is like making a sandwich in front of her tribute, and she's like taunting her with the sandwich, and she has a cheese knife that she just like leaves next to the monkey enclosure that they're in. That's literally what it is. And her tribute just grabs the knife and is like, ah! Because she was being a jerk, which is terrible, but that's what she was doing. And she dies very graphically. There's like blood everywhere. There's a ton of people around. And in the book, the tributes are kept in that pen for much longer. It's to get the capital to sort of know who they are. Lucy Gray manages to convince people to come out and bring them food because they're hungry. And in part of that, Sejanus does bring them food. Now, Coriolanus does not actually, like, Lucy Gray mentions they haven't eaten, but he doesn't have spare food he can bring her. And Sejanus shows up with this bag of meatloaf sandwiches from his ma. Like, that was a really cool scene in the book where he's like trying to get them to eat, but they don't trust him because he's a mentor. They're like, what the heck are you doing? And Marcus wants nothing of this. So Lucy Gray gets Coriolanus to convince the tributes to eat the sandwiches. It's like a whole thing. The two of them work together. He even winds up eating a sandwich. Like, he is not opposed to free food. The man is starving. So that's something else that bothered me a little. We don't get all that time where they're sort of like performing and we see the capital turning the tributes into a spectacle. That is their whole goal of this game because no one is watching. So, I need to go back to the snake thing because I got distracted. So the snake thing with Clemmy, that ties into hospital scenes that didn't occur. So in the book, when she reaches her hand into the snake tank, it is supposed to be a class project. Clemmy has done no work. And Dr. Gall knows that only Coriolanus did this. She already knows. She knows. She just knows. So Clemmy's hand is like in the snakes when suddenly Dr. Gall is like, oh, if they don't know your scent, they might bite you. And she like flings her hand up super fast. And when she does, she gets bit. Now, they would have bitten her anyway because we know that they bite unfamiliar scents. But she gets bit by a number of snakes. This like rainbow pus comes out of her. She looks like she's dying. She gets rushed to the hospital. They say she has the flu. And then later in the book, she reveals that she's like covered in reptilian scales that they've told her could take months to go away. And they're like tugging on her, like they're growths on her skin in a sense. And also in the deaths are more graphic. When the tributes are bitten in the book, in the arena, that does still happen. There's all that pus. It's disgusting. It sounds so much more gruesome than it was. Like, they do get covered in snakes, but still very gruesome deaths. Some things in the arena, it's difficult to pinpoint like what was different and what wasn't, because I admittedly had a hard time. It's not the book's fault. I was reading this at night, so I sometimes had a hard time remembering who was doing what. But I will get into that because there's that mention of Coriolanus cheating. They actually do not say they'll get in trouble for cheating. That is never said. High Bottom does not say that. You could assume, but he doesn't actually say that. They say that the plinth prize will go to whoever wins the Hunger Games, the mentor who will win the games in the book, not the best mentor will get the plinth prize. That's not how that works. So when we're doing the like right near the end of the games, Lucy Gray does perform. Lucy Gray actually sings a lot more in the book. She does perform, but the guitar is actually something that Coriolanus gets her. He talks to the club owner, who I believe in the book is gay. They mention a love and he is mentioned to as he, and he's not in the movie. And I really wish it was, because it's black market, and he and his family have dealt with the black market before because that's how they get their things. But he gets her this guitar. And that's what was odd. They had him like in the hospital while she's doing all this, and that's not what happened. The mentors had to be with their tributes like all the time. So they were at the interviews in the book. They were there, he was there, she sang the song, he was with her. So like that was different, but she did still perform. So they just cut out Coriolanus being kind of a media, like, talking head a little. As the story progresses, he keeps getting more and more like fixated on like getting in front of the media so he can get Lucy Gray more stuff in the book. He's like, I'll talk to Lucky, I'll do whatever I need to, I will get her money, because he wants her to win because of the Plinth Prize. He does care about her, but whereas the movie made it a love story, it's not really that in the book. Now I know I am jumping around a bit. I will say aspects of the games changed a little. I'm not going to focus too much on that. I will say that Lucy Gray does still take out 2 tributes. Now, I again mentioned that the Capitol is much cleaner in the movie, and in the book it's a lot dirtier. So there are rats and raccoons all over the zoo, and there's rats and raccoons all over the city because the Capitol is still pretty gross. What happens is Jessup does get bit, but not by a bat. They were never in enclosed cars in the book. They're actually in disgusting cattle cars and then loaded into like a cage to get them to the zoo. Like, they made that a lot nicer. But he gets bit while they're in the zoo because there are rats and raccoons. And that's where the rabies came from. Lucy in the book kills Reaper, but she says it's because Jessup spit in his eye, so he's been infected with rabies and he doesn't know it. And so she decided that she does poison him, but it is rat poison, but Coriolanus hasn't given it to her. He gives her the compact. She does have that. But there's like piles of rat poison all over the city because rats are a problem. And so she's able to like scoop it up and put it in that herself. She also does not kill Dill. Dill succumbs to her tuberculosis in the book in a very like touching moment where Reaper like carries her to where he's been laying all of the bodies. He's been doing that throughout the entire games. He lays Dill down as she dies, so she'll just already be with the dead, and he is covering them periodically, so that is still there. Let's see, I've jumped around a lot, so I'm just making sure that I go back. The other person she kills with one of the snakes, because it's in her pocket. Now in the movie they make it more exciting. They are like, she's being surrounded by snakes, and then they're yelling for her to get out. So what happens, Coriolanus has put the he didn't use it to wipe her tears. In the book, it's one of his daily handkerchiefs that he hid food in for her from school, and he like has it on him again, and he throws it into the snake tank on the off chance they will put it in the Hunger Games. He doesn't even know for certain. There's no announcement, but he thinks that it might go in because they're moving it, and so he does that. He doesn't even know if it'll help or hurt. He's just like, whatever, I'm putting it in there. It'll help her if the snakes are around her. She does still sing, but in the book, the snakes do not end the games. The snakes are on them, and there's been a heat wave, and so the snakes are fine because it's warm, and she keeps singing and singing and singing and singing and singing, and then a thunderstorm starts, and the cold, like the temperature drop, affects the snakes very badly, and they start like moving away, they start dying, they're not doing well, so she's able to get away. And in the games, in the movie, they do need visuals. They need visuals, they need sound, they need to know what's going on. In the book, no one knows what's going on for a majority of it in the games, because that explosion does occur. The explosion does kill, I actually believe, 2 mentors in the book, and it's damaged the arena to like, so there's little like hiding spots now, like there are in the movie. Coriolanus does not know where they are. He does not get to do a walk through. He's in the freaking hospital. He doesn't know. He just knows that it's been damaged. So he doesn't do that whole like scouting for Lucy thing. That doesn't happen in the book. So because this is the first time they've really like had little hideaways and stuff that they weren't prepared for, they don't have cameras. If you're not in the main arena in the book, they don't know where you are. And they also don't have good sound, so they can't hear anyone, like, ever. So like they can barely understand what's going on. They don't know when people are talking to each other. They just don't know. They just do not know what is happening most of the time in the arena. Taking another sip of water because I've been talking longer than I expected. Lucky is the weatherman and amateur magician in the book, though he does a lot more magic tricks, and he has a terrible bird in the book. That's fine. I didn't need him to have a parrot in the movie. But yeah, so those are the big differences there. They don't have as much audio. They don't have as much visual. they have what they have. Now, I had already discussed this, and this actually occurs at the end, because I'm spoiling so much anyway. I will tell you that once the games are done, Lucy does still win, but it's after Reaper has been poisoned. And then it's done. It's over. She's won. Snow does get found out. He may be the winner of the Plinth Prize, but they do find the compact on her. She says it was a token. It does have rat poison in it, but in the book, unlike the movie, he did not put it there. So she says, no, I put the poison there. I put it there. I put it there myself, which she did. She did in the book. In the movie, she doesn't. Coriolanus gives it to her. But in the book, city's gross, full of rats. So she got it however she could. I'm going to take another sip of water. Oh my goodness gracious, I'm talking so much. Okay. So on top of all of that, when the games are over, Highbottom's like, we know, you're going to enroll as peacekeeper, and we won't tell everyone you cheated. So he does. He actually has to run from the academy to the peacekeepers and sign up immediately before they close for the day, which was way cooler in my mind than him being escorted in a van by the peacekeepers. Like, he had to sprint. He's like, I ran through the Capitol and got there. So that's a lot of it. I've made it to the District 12 section. Now, I did mention that there are more mentor deaths in the book. So in the movie, the mentor deaths just sort of happen. Clemmy just sort of disappears. Clemmy doesn't die, but there are mentor deaths. And for those 3 mentors, there are 2 funerals. One is a joint funeral. I think it's only 2 funerals. No, there's another funeral, but we don't see it. There are 2 funerals in the book. More mentors die than in... same amount of mentors I think are announced as dead in the movie as in the book. This doesn't really matter. You just need to know there are 2 funerals that don't occur in the movie, and I'm sure they didn't occur because they are graphic to read. The funerals are occurring. Coriolanus winds up singing the anthem at one of them, and then a hologram of him is used after the bombing to sing it again. But during these funerals, so in the first one, for the person who was killed at the zoo, her tribute was killed. And her tribute is then dragged through the streets. Her body, just super gross. While they like bring the tributes through in a wagon. It's awful to read. This then happens again in the second funeral and is worse. So like, gross and sad, and I understand why they weren't in the movie. But they were in here and they made for a very sad reading time. It was just a lot. It was a lot. But anyway, jumping to District 12. I will say, I did say I would say this even though it occurs at the end of the book. The recording of the Hunger Games is deleted from the archives forever by Dr. Gall at the end of this book. So no one will ever see the 10th annual Hunger Games again. It's like they didn't exist. Like Lucy Gray was never there. So that happens, which is wild. So in District 12, they have, throughout all of this, like Coriolanus is in love with Lucy Gray, which does not seem true if you read the book. So in the movie, he even asks, like, tell me if this is real. And she's like, yes, it's real. That doesn't really happen. She does kiss him before the games start, but also they're trying to make her a spectacle. So like, I don't know. I think she has some feelings for him. He has some feelings for her. She kisses him. It's like, it's a thing, and it's on TV. Like, I don't know how genuine that could be. Oh, my camera is yelling at me. So I'm gonna speed up. So yeah, all of that occurs. And okay, I talked so long that my memory card filled up. So, where was I? District 12. Okay. Oh, I was mentioning that Lucy Gray sings a song at a certain point. I also feel like my camera's a little tilty, but we're just not gonna deal with it. She sings a song where she mentions having to do some things and having had a former lover, like doing what she needed to do to get by. Coriolanus gets very angry and very judgmental of her, saying like, well, she's obviously done things. And Tigris is like, people do things all the time to get by. Like, don't judge her for that. So he like gets very jealous in regards to Lucy Gray, and that jealousy boils over into a lot of like wanting to control her and to like have her. And while he may feel love, it's very confusing because it doesn't seem like he has anyone he like really and truly loves besides Tigris and his grandmam. In a way, they're not very close. They keep mentioning his father in the book, but in the movie, in the book, he says his father was distant, he wasn't really around. He like existed, but they like weren't close, they didn't really talk. So we don't have that like constant comparison to his father, except Highbottom mentions it a lot, but Highbottom hates his dad, for the reasons in the movie, same as the book. his dad turned in a paper where Highbottom invented the Hunger Games, which he didn't want to do. He was drunk and he was joking. But yeah, so the Hunger Games was started as a joke. This is so great. But anyway, when he gets to District 12, he's like, well, I don't even know if she's here. Like, I don't know if he killed her. I don't know what happened. And he's like, I'm gonna live out my life here, like, forever and just die. Like, he's given up on everything. Like, he's just like, it's over. It's done. And they don't really show that in the movie, but he's like given up. He winds up taking the officer's test, thinking maybe on the off chance that now that he's in the military, no one will care from the Capitol if he does this. So he's like, it's fine. Like, I'll do what I do. Like, I'll take it out. I'll see if anything comes of it. He does actually learn that Lucy Gray is there. They do meet up at the Hob, the bar. He spends time with her and the Covey. All of that occurs in both. The deaths occur of Billy Tope and Mayfair in both. And he does record Sejanus being involved in a basically treasonous plot. That occurs. He is not on the recording, and he does make sure that Jabberjay goes. There's a whole longer thing about Jabberjays and Mockingjays in the book that doesn't happen in this. They sort of set it up as like, Dr. Gall is like getting all the Jabberjays back in the movie, but there's actually a big project with a different scientist, but it's fine. It's whatever. The recording occurs. It's just the recording is better in the book because Sejanus and Coriolanus intentionally does not allow Sejanus, like, does not allow it to show that he's talking to Sejanus. It just has Sejanus talking to the bird, basically. So that's a little different. He also still plans to run away, but it's at the point where he's thought, like, nothing will ever come of my life here. Like, I have nothing left. And Sejanus has been hanged. So he's just kind of like, it's over. It's done. Done. Like, I have nothing. There's nothing left. So he is going to run away. And then in the movie, they're like, in 10 days. In the book, sorry. Oh, now I'm gonna need water. Hold on. Sorry. Ugh, so much asthma-iness. Anyway, in the book, he basically learns, like, it's like roughly the night before they want him to leave, like, hey, you're going to officer training. And he's like, ah, crap, like, I already told Lucy Gray that we were running away. And he's like, I'll just go through with it. I'll still run away with her. But the whole time that they're running away, in his mind, he's like, this is terrible. I should go back. I should go back. And then, like, that's not what's going on in the movie. Like, he seems very invested in going still. In the book, he's like, nah, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm gonna go back. Then she does run off. There is an exchange about the gun. And she does leave. She runs off. He tries to find her in the woods, but he doesn't even, like, actively shoot at her, like, in the movie. In the book, she just kind of disappears. And that's it. He goes back to base. He's headed for 12. He winds up at the Capitol, and then he will be trained by Dr. Gall. That training aspect was the same. Him going back is the same, but they don't know that in 12. He doesn't find out till he's on the train that they're taking him to the Capitol. And then at that point, we jump a little bit forward. He's been in school for a while. He is now the heir to the Plinth fortune because they think he was such good friends with Sejanus that they've made him their heir. The Plinths have been helping take care of his family. They have kept their apartment. Now, in the movie, they were evicted. In the book, it's that there is a new tax and their property has been taxed and they can't afford the tax because it's towards, like, a revitalization of the Capitol. And the Plinths help them deal with it. They managed to get their apartment, so it's all fine. So he is the heir. He does the thing to Highbottom that we see. He is going to be working with Dr. Gall, and he has been for some time. He is in part someone who thinks up Victor's Row, each district getting a gift if they're, like, a gift of extra food if their tribute wins. The other thing that I didn't mention is that drone attack that occurs where, like, Coriolanus sends them. There is a drone attack in the book, but it's actually done by one of the tributes. Like, someone is sending supplies to their tribute, and one of the tributes has done some stuff with with drone parts, and they, like, cause the other drones to, like, freak out, and a tribute uses the drones to their advantage in a very gruesome way. Anyway, but going back. So yeah, it is very different, and by the end of the book, Coriolanus has no desire to ever marry someone for love ever again. He never wants to love again. He does not care. He actually says he would rather marry someone he hates, or maybe he'll find someone who is just, like, dumb. Like, he's just kind of like, I'll just marry someone who wouldn't, like, fight me on anything. Like, that's what I'll do. Like, I'll just find someone who I don't care about at all, which is awful for that person. So really, I think I got everything. Or at least a lot. I'm sure I missed some things, but like this was very long. I didn't mean for it to be very long or to end one of my memory cards. I really did not think that through. But yeah, so there were a lot of differences. I do not understand why this did not get 2 movies because it's so long. This took me so long to read because like the events are just like dense. Like it's a lot of dense things, like graphic violence. Awful things are happening to people. Like it's a long book. But I think I got everything, or at least all the things that I could really remember. We do get the Hanging Tree backstory in this too, and the song, so that's cool. And we get a mention of Katniss as being the flower on a swamp potato, which was interesting. But yeah, so that is everything for this really long video. I am so sorry. I would say see the movie, but if you've read the book, you may not want to see the movie because it's so all over the place in terms of what it decides to focus on, what it's doing. It's really not a love story, and they want it to be one. When it's more Snow's desire for control and his own well-being kind of at play, it sort of turns into a kind of love for Lucy Gray, but not one that he's willing to give up his life, like his life at the Capitol for, which is not what the movie does. The movie makes you think that he's gonna leave, even though he's like, I should go back to the Capitol, like at a certain point. But yeah, it's just very different. I would read the book if you want to read the book, or I would see the movie if you want to see the movie. I don't know that I recommend doing both. That's just my own opinion. I'm gonna go though because I've been talking for forever and I didn't plan to. I hope you enjoyed this, me like having a diatribe about, I like literally had not read this franchise since the first movie came out on DVD. So it's not like I'm like a big like person who's into the franchise. I just was like, I'm gonna read the book because I read the other ones. And then we saw the movie and I was like, this is very different and I think I regret reading the book now. Like I did enjoy the book. I thought the movie was fine, but having read the book, it was less what I thought it would be, the movie. I thought it would be something a little different. So let me know your thoughts on the book, the movie, the Hunger Games franchise as a whole, because I watched all the movies recently, but I have not read the books, which I mentioned before. But I'm gonna go, because now I'm gonna have to edit this behemoth of a thing. It's because the book was so long. I'm blaming the book. But anyway, let me know what you thought. You can find me on Instagram at CliffNotes. Or no, oh my gosh, wow. I say this sometimes when I like forget. This used to be Cliff Notes. My Instagram is Cliff Go Ever After, as this channel is also Cliff Go Ever After. It used to be Cliff Notes. It's a whole thing. I changed it when I got married. So that, well, a little after I got married. But anyway, Cliff Go Ever After on Instagram and YouTube. If you like this video, you can check out more of my videos. I have a few. Some really old ones if you want to delve real far back. But you can like, subscribe, do the things. Anyway, I'm gonna go because I'm obviously tired if I'm talking about my old social media accounts. But yes, so Cliff Go Ever After everywhere, and I will talk to you later. Bye, internet people.